Hello, good afternoon. And I think most of them are still having lunch, so I'm going to have to end up wasting quite a few of my punchlines, but it's okay, I'll do that. To start off with, how many parents do I have here right now? Okay. How many of you planning to be parents? How many of you completely sure that no kids? Okay. Good, good. I think I have something for everyone then. Um, So, the first thing you have to remember about parenting is everyone here is an expert. You've either been at the receiving end or you've been at the giving end. So, there's nobody here who can't conduct the session. Everybody can conduct the session. Just, I happen to know the organizer, so I got in here. So, nothing fantastic about it. Also, if at any point you disagree, please feel free to interrupt me then and there, because this seems like a very intimate audience. We can get a lot of useful discussion happening. Okay? So, I don't know which way I'm going to have to point my pointer, because I don't know whether projector. Yeah. So, I don't know if you can see this. This was not what I had planned. I got this, I saw this morning on my feed. So, apparently in Surat, there's this NGO which is going to put all the school kids together, and on Valentine's Day, the school kids are going to take a pledge that they will only get married to someone whom their parent approves of. The name of the organization is Hasyamev Jayate, and the person running it is Kamlesh Masalawala. I'm just wondering if the light over the screen needs to be switched off. I don't know if you guys can see. So anyway, this Valentine's Day, thousands of school children to take pledge to not marry without parents' consent. And the last 3 lines, the pledgers will do so even if it means putting an end to their romantic relationship with the person who does not get approval from their parents. Any thoughts? How are they going to enforce it? They are going to depend on your good conscience that, the parents will be like, you promised when you were in school. So I think they're still working out the logistics of that. Because the article, this is a Times Now article. Yeah, Times Now news article, and the rest of the article does not carry the age. So I don't think it will be very small kids. There'll be kids who know the meaning of marriage. There'll be kids who know the meaning of romance. Otherwise, this entire exercise is pointless. Any other thoughts? You cannot predict time. Instigating, yes. Not required. Yeah. You want to say something, ma'am? Ideally, any process where you ask the students to do something, anyone under 18, parent and guardian signature is required. So I'm assuming parents' consent will be taken. But what I'm most intrigued by is the fact that parents, when we say Mai Baap, such a big deal. That is what intrigues me. And how big a deal it is, it's a big deal everywhere, right across the animal kingdom. The origin, the source matters always. How much it matters is the challenge. So for those of you who are already parents, those of you who are planning to be parents, one question, I have to look this side when I switch. So there are all kinds of families. This is the family I'm talking about, which means one adult male, one adult female, and children of various genders, okay? This is the traditional, typical family that we understand. So our discussion is going to be based on this. I know there will be questions eventually about, but there are families which are different. We'll take that as it comes. It all starts with this. 2 people decide to get married. It does not always start with this. Sometimes they decide to get married because the baby is coming. But yeah, marriage happens. So the question I have for all of you, people who are already parents specifically, take a minute and think about it and tell me this. Why did you want to be parents? And for those of you who are planning to have kids, why do you want to be parents? Yeah? This is going to be good.
Yeah. So I guess why I wanted to have, because I was not aware at that time, but now when I look back, because that's the way it is. You get married at a certain age or around that age, and then you are a certain age, and then you have kids at that age, because everybody around you, your friends, your cousins are having children. So you have kids. Uh, if I'm being very, very honest and frank, I think it was because of that. There was really no, oh my God, maa ka pyar, which I wanted to have kids and give it to them, because I was not aware that maa ka pyar kya hota hai, because I was only the child till then, and only on the receiving end. Maa ka pyar only comes in when you are a mother.
That's a lot of honesty. Thank you. Anybody else with any different answers who felt the maa ka pyar?
So I might have been many things in my life, but I feel the one thing that I've always felt I was born to be is a mom, you know. So for me, I don't know if this is the woman in me speaking or the mother in me, but the person that I am, I feel this is my, the reason I had kids is because I wanted to raise children who are better than me, who are contributing. I had all these ideas while I was studying, you know, while I was still a student in college. So I feel somewhere at the back of my mind, of course I had these ideas, but at the forefront, it's what she said, that's just the way it is, you know. Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I may not be able to run up with the mic, but if you want to just try.
Okay, so I was mentally prepared maybe to conceive, to deliver the baby, but I was not prepared, might be for parenting. That is what I feel. So my only definition of a complete family is if you have kids, a boy and a girl in a family, then it's a complete family. So I delivered a baby boy first, and then still I was thinking, okay, the family is still not complete. So fortunately, I got a baby girl, and now I feel it's yes. So I feel it's a complete family. So that is how I took
So
the
you have
decision.
the ideal, the one which can come in all the pictures. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone with a different answer? Yeah.
For me, it was very different in the sense that before having kids, I never wanted to, I never wanted kids. So when I mean, it just happened as it happens. So but then after the kids, my son is now 21 years. So after having kids, I felt that I as a person has grown. So that has helped me now that I've become a parent. So I feel I'm a better human being after being a parent, and that's what is different for me.
Thank you. I'm just going to put a stop. Oh, okay. There's one lady. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to enjoy something of my own. That's when I decided I wanted to have children.
Why not have a puppy?
Less investment.
I'm just wondering. It's a genuine question.
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Why not have a puppy? Why not have a home of your own? Why not build a business which is all your own, that you could enjoy?
The fact that you conceive and give birth, I think, is very intimate to a mother. And yeah, it was really about, if you would say, producing something of your own.
Okay, thank you. There's a beautiful Chinese saying which says that have a baby, write a book, plant a tree, because in all of them you're creating something, and have a baby is something which only the woman can do. So yeah, and now we don't even need the men around. There's something called IVF and all the kind of stuff. So yeah, really, just go ahead and do it. But from what I get, from what all of you are saying, you all decided to have a baby because you wanted the baby. A couple of weeks ago, there was a case about this 26-year-old man who's filed a case against his parents for having him without his consent. And mother gave a beautiful reply. Mother says, though I understand the logic of his question, she told him that she's a lawyer herself. She said, you come to court, I'll destroy you. So she's that confident. So it's such an intriguing question, and the reason I'm spending so much time with this is because there is a one-celled organism which turns into a multi-celled organism, which has all these dynamics that come into play, which can either destroy this planet, destroy other human beings, build it or nourish it. Can you imagine the power that you are unleashing and you're doing it because everybody else did it. There are 7 billion people on this planet right now. And yes, we want to bring out better human beings, ma'am, I agree. There are a whole lot of other people you can reach out to and help them become better human beings. That they have to come out from you and your husband. A lot of parents I speak to, and they say the joy of parenting, the joy of having a child. Why your own? Please, just look into the orphanages, look into the homes. There are so many kids who need love. So, yeah, I'm not against kids, by the way. I'm not against marriage. I'm not against any of these things. But I'm against action without thinking. I'm against action without awareness. Mental health is all about awareness. Know what you're doing. Know the impact of what you're doing on yourself and others. We don't think and we have a child. And then we come to fancy seminars and read fancy books and say, okay, listen, I got the basics right. Parenting comes without a manual. You have your experience, you have the experience of other members of your species, and no one person's experience is exactly the same. Similar, but not the same. There is no mass-produced parenting. It has to be custom-made, tailor-made. And yet we're going on and producing. And see, you saw the number of hands that came up for all those who want to have kids and those who already have had kids. There are only 2 people who said, no kids happening. Thank you very much. And maybe later on we'll have a conversation about how you came to this decision. But think about the enormity of what you have just done. You have created a being which is going to use up the already limited oxygen, the limited resources, and is going to then probably produce more kids who will use up the limited oxygen and the resources. How much do we have left? I'm making it sound very negative, no? Let's look at something else. Please understand that as a parent, you will be all pervasive. You will be over every aspect of their life. Starting from, biologically they come from you, so you're there in them all the time. Besides that, career, academics, health, life partner. Now, though you saw this article, the person you marry also has to be someone I agree with, otherwise, I'm going to hold it against your head. Or I'll make it sound like a huge sacrifice that, yes, I love you, that is why I'm doing this for you, otherwise I really don't like this boy or girl. And if you watched a lot of these stand-up comedies, and I especially love watching Russell Peters, you should listen to him doing these cultural comparisons in parenting between Indian parents, Canadian parents, American parents, Mexican parents. He's got it bang on. It's like one of the best psychology-based talks that I hear, based on behavior and cultural differences in behavior. It's not simple. So remember, parenting covers everything. And there are some parents who say, as the kids grow up, they say, now my kids don't need me, now they are stuck with their friends or their phone or their partners. That's what they say. But please, trust me on this one. I'll give you the evidence later. You're always there. You're more important than God. Even if the child is telling you, I hate you, you're still there. The fact that he or she can feel an emotion like hatred for you just shows how powerful you are. And I switched it off. Yeah. So this is a song by the Zombies. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but talk don't bother me. Please go back and listen to it. And please understand this song is all rubbish. This is not true at all. Not true at all. Sticks and stones may break your bones, which will heal. Words will break you in a way that you will have a very tough time healing. I wouldn't want to say the word never, but have a very tough time healing. And what's the greatest amount of conversation you have in your life is with your parents, because it starts from before you even learn to speak till the time that they're around. You may get busy, you may get married, you may have your own kids, but there's so much of talk going on. It's a lot of talk. And please understand, again, I don't need to tell the kids over here, this is an extremely unequal relationship. Power center is one place. No matter how much you feel pampered, how much the parent feels like, my child is my everything, I will do everything for the child, and my child is the center of my life, power center is not you. Power center is the parent. And I will explain to the parents in the audience how and why, in case you're thinking that that's not true. Remember this song, listen to it, keep it on your cell phone, make it your caller tune. Because every time you say a word which you think is not all that harsh, so what? Yeah, I just said it because I was angry. It just came out. My child knows I love him or her. It really won't matter. Let's see what the evidence says. The next couple of slides are a little technical, so just bear with me and try to focus on understanding them. Because this is not me talking, this is research. Thankfully, technology has advanced so much now. We can figure out what's happening in the brain as it is happening, okay? You have all these fancy scans which expose you to some 400 times the radiation, but you get to know what's happening in the brain. So first thing, there's the same circuitry in your brain for emotional and physical pain. Now, there was this interesting study done where the researcher tried to find people who were literally heartbroken, had gone through a very major breakup, and then expose them to a painful stimuli, like say probably pouring some hot coffee or something on them. And he found participants, okay? So first thing, these heartbroken people, they had to sit and look at a picture of their ex, and they were plugged into an fMRI, so you know, the brain scans are happening. Then they looked at a picture of a friend whom they're still friends with. Then they get burnt or they get scalded. And through all of it, their brain scans are happening. The same circuits get highlighted, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain. Now you think about it. Think about the last couple of times you had a painful accident or you hurt yourself or something like that. And then you think about the last couple of times somebody said something to you that hurt you very badly. And tell me, which one are you healed from? The accident. Yeah. If you think about the number of words you've exchanged with your child, or if you think about the number of words you've exchanged with your parents, by the way, verbal abuse can be reversed also, okay? Children can throw all kinds of nasty things at their parents. That is why we got the answer that we did just now. So you're messing with the brain. Structurally, you are messing with the brain. What does this do? So, okay, lots of studies have shown us that, there's the typical strict father and the loving mother. So they think that the loving mother buffers against the negative impact of the strict father. Not happening. The love from the mother is strengthening you at a different level, at a different place in the brain, and the hurt from the father is weakening you at a different place in the brain. Both are happening. So kids who come from abusive homes, even if they have like an understanding teacher in school or a best friend outside or a romantic partner who cares for them, all the love in the world cannot undo the damage that has been caused by the verbal abuse. I'm not even going into the other aspects like the sexual abuse or the physical abuse. I'm just talking about when you get angry and you have an exchange of words. And sometimes very young kids, you don't mean to say that. We all know there is no intention to destroy the child's brain structurally. But then what does it lead to? It leads to changes structurally. Deliberate pain hurts more. Children can make out, or you can make out when somebody's intentionally said something to hurt you. That kind of pain has a more lasting effect. And what does it do? It ends up leading to internalizing of the messages that have come. So these are the kids who've been criticized a lot, the kids who've been hurt a lot. I mean, it's not that you don't criticize your kids or you don't correct your kids. There's a way to do it. Remember, I told you, this is the most powerful, potent force that you've unleashed on this planet. It is the single most important thing that you've done in your life. So you have to think about what you said. It is difficult, yes, but you chose this path. And if you tend to say things which are going to break them down, it's going to make them self-critical. So the kind of people you meet in your life who can never take a compliment, who are always doubting themselves, who are always questioning themselves, a lot of that comes, if you ask them, where did that come from? It does not come from one relationship gone bad. It comes from years of being told something about themselves. I don't know how well you can see the picture, but there's a better slide downstairs of the neurons. Yeah. So the concept of neurogenesis, the only reason I'm talking about the brain a little is because this is brain and mental health. Okay. So there has been this discussion or the debate going on for the longest time that new brain cells can be generated. Now, if you look at research right up to 2017, it's telling you that even for an adult brain, new brain cells can develop. But if you start looking at research from 2018, they are saying adult brain, new brain cells do not develop. They develop for the songbird, they develop for the rat, but they don't develop for the human. So we'll just assume that the jury is out, because next year some other research will come out and it'll tell us something else. Even if new brain cells are developing, does it destroy or do away with the harmful effects of the damage caused earlier? Thank you, it doesn't. And as parents, therefore, you need to think about it. See, if this was a kid, this was a talk on effective childhood techniques or how you need to talk to your parent, the track would have been a little different. But because this is about how parents need to talk to their children, I'm going to talk about how important, powerful, valuable. It's like a nuclear bomb. You may just think, I had a bad day, I said something and I brushed it off. And then you go and you hug your child and say, sorry man, I had a bad day. And you go out and you have dinner and you have do everything the child has tried to do. You know, there's emotional memory and there's memory for events. The child may actually forget the event, but the way you made the child feel, the child is not going to forget that. You just accumulate that many more memories across a lifetime, and then you'll have this 50-year-old sitting in front of my chair saying, I have a miserable life, I've married the wrong person, I hate my career. And I follow the tradition of psychoanalysis. I'm more of a psychoanalyst than a rationalist or a cognitive behavior therapist. So for me, it all starts there. I always go back and I try to find the source. And it'll start with something that, oh yeah, my 10th birthday, something happened and my father slapped me in front of everyone and I hate my father since then. And then you have to teach the child that this is what's been bothering you. You know, just let go of it, release it, forgive the person. Remember, there's a rational understanding. The person will tell you, yeah, it happened when I was 10 years old, so I can't hold it against the person now. So the rational understanding is there, but the emotional understanding is not there. There's a beautiful book, Words Can Change Your Brain. It talks to you about how specific words create specific changes in certain parts of the brain. So words like love and peace affect the frontal lobe. Now, which is the frontal lobe? This one, no? The front part of your brain, where you're talking about all the executive functions, decision-making, thinking, rationalizing, all of that. This is what you expect a healthy human being to use when interacting with the world outside, okay, on the whole. Research, okay? When people have been exposed to these words more often, the scans light up parts in the frontal lobe. What happens when the person is stressed? Now this is, again, everyone knows this, I heart you, I love you, Valentine's Day is coming. Okay, please replace the heart with the brain. It's I brain you. Because your emotions do not come from the heart, it comes from the little red thing over there called the amygdala. Okay, every time that thing's aroused, it just starts sending out neurotransmitters and hormones and says, damn it, panic, 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 there's a lot of stress happening. And that is what messes with the frontal lobe. So, you know, a lot of people who practice yoga and mindfulness and all, and they're like all ekdam zen mode, you don't find them getting stressed. What is actually happening? What are the brain scans telling us? So imagine the front of your brain, frontal lobe. This is your amygdala somewhere at the back. Actually, it's somewhere here. There's a connection. We know the brain is a network of cells. There's a connection happening. Everyone has that connection. For people who are stressed, because the amygdala is sending out all these signals, the connection is so powerful that it interferes with your frontal lobe. So if you need to take a decision, let me buy this outfit because it suits me and it suits my budget. There's the panic brain saying that, oh my God, what if it really doesn't look good, and what if the other person ends up looking better than you? So, okay, let me not buy a dress which costs $2,000, let me buy a dress which costs $4,000. All of us know what it is to take an emotional decision. And if you have more emotional decisions than rational decisions, just try and think about that one connecting, or that connection between your amygdala, your limbic system, and the front of your brain. Mindfulness is the one practice which has been proven to weaken that relationship. Not that you shouldn't feel emotions. You continue feeling your emotions, but your emotions need not impact your rational decisions. Okay? So this is not me. This is science. Getting too emotional, getting too worked up about things, saying things. Now imagine a lifetime for a powerless being and being exposed to all kinds of stress. And it could be that the husband and wife are fighting about something else and the poor child doesn't understand, but the child knows there's tension, there's stress. which part of the brain is activated, not the frontal lobe, which is rationalizing, okay, it's not nothing to do with me, mom and dad are fighting. No, it's the amygdala. So a child is like a 15-year investment, that's it. Okay, and if you are investing in the stock markets and you plan to make some money, how many years will you put it in and wait? If you want to start a big project, if you want to buy a house, if you want to pay EMIs, you take 20-year loans for a flat. How much time and energy are you putting for the child? Besides, of course, looking after the financial needs and most of the emotional needs, I won't say that people intentionally go out and harm their child. But because the main question, why did I have a child? Through this entire series, every slide, just ask yourself this question. Why did I have a child? Was it for me? Was it for the child? Was it for any other reason? So this little pink thing in the brain is the hippocampus. All right? And this is something which is related to how you form memories. This is related to learning. Now, kids who come from lower socioeconomic background, or kids who have not received a lot of attention from their parents for whatever reason, not just money, food or whatever, it's just parents are too busy. What happens to that? The hippocampus is smaller. As it is, your brain is so tiny, you've seen what it is. Hippocampus is one tiny little thing like this. And then you've had a non-nurturing parents, the hippocampus gets smaller. What kind of memories would be produced with your amygdala flashing out panic signals all the time? And then you tell me, what kind of adult will you get? Will you get an adult who's going to actually be someone who's healthy, productive, helping the world reach a better place? Or are we just going to then be setting up a whole lot of mental health institutes and finding 10 counselors per school? For parenting styles, the only reason I'm putting this is because officially when you talk about parenting, this has to come in somewhere. Anyone who studied psychology knows what this is, but for those who are not from psychology, I'm going to quickly run through it. It's a graph, kind of. So there's a balance. Parents need to strike the balance between being disciplined and between being loving. Okay? So how much you demand from your child and how much response you give, how responsive you are to the child. So the first one, the top left, that's where parents should be. Authoritative doesn't mean they're there. Don't mix up the words authoritative and authoritarian. Authoritative is you've got it. You've got the key. You've balanced the discipline and the love. You've balanced the warmth and the pastings, whatever. You've balanced it. Authoritarian, too much discipline, less love. Then you have permissive, too much love, no discipline. Uninvolved, I don't have time for you. I don't have time to set any boundaries for you. I'm too busy with my life. Okay, the words are pretty self-explanatory. You don't have to worry. The only thing you need to get right is authoritative. Now you tell me as parents over here. Very easy. Very easy to get the balance. I know how much love to give and how much balance to give. Now, in some of my parenting workshops, I have parents and children. And we ask this question separately. And you have a measure of the balance. You can be sure the parents and the child's responses don't meet. But the parent thinks, I'm doing everything right. How could I go wrong? How much I've thought about this. This is, because bottom line is it starts from my love. No, I love you. I'm your parent. I can't go wrong. You're human. You can go wrong. And just because someone's younger than you, smaller than you, tinier than you, less powerful than you, doesn't mean that person is wrong. Okay? That is something we need to get into our heads. And by the way, I don't mean just you. I mean me too. Okay? I'm part of the parenting population. There are so many. The next couple of slides are just some of the things that drive parents nuts. You've seen this. There's plenty of research showing that you can't do 10 things at a time. You know it's wrong. So you tell your child once, you tell your child twice, thrice, 4 times, child doesn't listen, and then you blow your top. And then you say, listen, I told you properly, you didn't hear. I couldn't help it, I had to do this. Suppose you have 2 kids, even better. You discipline them, throw them into the room, and then they are, plotting behind your back. And it's just, oh, damn, why don't they get it? I am doing something for their benefit. See, it's such a thankless job parenting. And then you come to the seminar where people like me tell you, listen, you've got it all wrong. So it's not easy. I get it. And then you have to balance this, the cuteness overload of the child. They just know how to make you dance on their little finger. And they'll tell you, no, mom, I'm so sorry. And, I won't do this again. And all the bright promises, mom, dad, whatever. And then the next morning or after the event is over, that's it. Super cute is gone, and then your reality strikes you, and you're like, I will never do this again. I will not listen to you. Till the next attack of cuteness happens. This is just one of those random stats, okay, which have no bearing on reality, but which is very funny. Simply to tell you that you are thinking of all kinds of career options for your child. Don't tell me, though I have lots of parents who tell me that my child has the freedom to do whatever he or she wants. I'm not going to interfere. Rubbish. If I ask the child, what is it that you would have wanted your child to do, even if you're not interfering, then the plans the parent comes out with, they are so elaborate. If you haven't thought of anything, how is your planning so elaborate? Because you've probably met a doctor and said, wow, this would have been great. Or you've seen an engineer and said, this is great. Or you've seen a singer and said, oh, wow, this is great. Parents will plan. See, it's in the very nature of a human being. You anticipate, you plan, especially when you have ready mal over there that you can utilize as you want for your satisfaction, right? So, I'm just other career options. Some common sights and sounds in the home. Probably our homes may not have blonde-haired kids, but you know what it is. Technology. We already had a session on digital life. But it's as good as this sometimes when you're talking to your children. And there's a reverse of it that's also happening. It's also the child screaming at you, trying to get your attention, but you've got earphones plugged in your ear. It works both ways. I'm completely with you on this one. So the reaction to that, the next important question that happens as a result of all those wonderful slides that we saw, punishment. So there's a lot of research. Corporal punishment, allowed, not allowed, good, bad, should we, shouldn't we? Go back to my first question. Why did you have a child? Do you know the meaning of the word respect? As the parent, you deserve respect, yes. As the child doesn't respect, it doesn't deserve respect. Think about it. You slap a child on the face. The child loves you. Please understand the child is also powerless. The child is completely dependent on you. It's not going to go anywhere. The child loves you, I can say, more than you love the child when the child is that small. Because the child has no go, you have another go, you're frustrated, you'll go. I've seen these videos of, there's that lovely one of that mom, you know, who keeps posting these videos of, I've had a bad day with my teenage daughter and all, and she'll take this tub of ice cream and she'll pour wine into it and whatever. She'll just say, be your parent and do this and do that. Solid advice. But you can do that. What's your 5-year-old, 6-year-old child gonna do? What's the worst that he can do or the best that he can do to get out of the hurt that has been caused to him? Which is why my only question that I would like you all to take back from this session, even if you forget everything, why did you have the child? If your identity is from the child, you're doomed for pain. Not because there's anything wrong with parenting, but because when you're talking about mental health, if you are dependent on another human being, if your sense of self, if your sense of identity comes from someone else, you're walking on a very flimsy ground over there. The minute that person moves away from you, as that person will, because he or she needs to live his or her life, you're going to feel threatened, you're going to feel destroyed. So your sense of self, your sense of identity needs to come from you, period. You decide to have children, give them a lot of love, care for them, great. But let it not be that my sense of self comes from them, my identity as a woman comes from them. Your identity, if this is what you were made for, great, your sense of identity comes from them, but be prepared that when my child moves on, my sense of identity is retained. I will not hold it against them. Children are born to grow up and move on, no? There's another lovely saying. Children are born through parents, not to parents. There's a big difference. You are the medium. You are not the outcome. So anyway, coming back to punishment, you are the best judge. Neither me or any fancy book or any seminar is going to be able to tell you whether you should whack your child or no. You are the best judge. But to do that, to judge that, before you raise your hand, sit and think about an alternative way to handle it. And the reason you may not be able to do that is because you're in a rush. Not because, and this has nothing to do with career woman, okay? I'm not even talking about that. It has nothing to do with career woman. It's just that life today, there's just so much to do. Life is complicated. Being alive in the city of Bombay is a challenge. travel for work, even if you're traveling in a fancy AC car from one part of the city, even 5 kilometers, the traffic can kill you. So you're going to come home irritated. No, your mental health also matters. Your child's mental health matters, no doubt. Your mental health matters. So when you're destroyed, you're irritated, you're frustrated, it just seems so much more simpler to just pick up and whack the child. It just happens. And then you may end up feeling miserable. I know mothers who sit and cry. And, I've also done that. Whack the kids and I'm like, oh my God, why did I do that? I shouldn't have. And then sat and cried and let go of all the pain. But then the whacking has happened. Okay? And as we just saw, love does not buffer the complication caused by the pain. It's not a substitute. It's not an exchange offer. So think about it. That's all I'll say. In this session, I'm not going to tell you hit your child or don't hit your child. Think about it. Give yourself time. If you're not tired, you're not doing it right. This is what I meant when I said earlier it's a 20-year investment. And especially our kids, our Indian kids, they're always kids. You get married also, you hang around with your parents and your parents' friends. It's always there. So you will be tired. It is tiring. So also one of the statements that I make, which, I think people like, especially women, like to stone me when I say this. I understand why you would want to stone me, but I think young mothers shouldn't work. It's just too much pressure, too much strain. Your mental health matters. You really don't have to carry the negativity of a frustrated boss and come and take it out on your child. You don't have to. But then I understand the realities of life and living, that there's just too many complications, it's too expensive, too many EMIs, too many loans. I want to give my child the best. And you know what? You give your child a box to play with and he's happy. Forget the toy. You give a little kid one spoon and one plate and watch him play. Put cotton in your ears, but watch him play. He's having fun. So it is going to be tiring. If you're going to complain about it, complain, but then realize that this is a choice you made, which is why my question, why did you make this choice? Did you think about what is going to happen and why? And if you look at the evolutionary history of humans and how society has evolved, parenting and having a child was compulsory for a reason. Propagation of the species, have the generations evolved. All of that about, say, 500 years ago, 300 years ago, required. Now 7 billion people at least on this planet and counting. Really, do we need more people on this planet? Then you think about whether you want a child. And then you have a common enemy. Just when you think you'll go to your parents for support, and then your parents are going behind your back and doing something else with your child. So as a parent, you're out there all alone, frankly. You have other parents who support you and who help you, but you're all more or less in the same boat only. There's just about so much distance that you can cover, right? I don't know, I have some time. Yeah. Technology, enough and more, so much. Kids are not talking to me. They've got Wi-Fi, they're always on the phone. Who gave them the phone? They need the phone, na? They go to school, so. Yeah, but they also go for classes, so. Yeah, but they get their messages on WhatsApp, so. You have a phone? Take WhatsApp messages, give your phone number. Why is your child with a phone? There is so much research telling you that you're messing with the child's brain with all the screen time. You're messing with your brain, firstly. And then you think of a brain. The human brain develops to 90% of its adult size by the age of 5. Okay? Now, by the age of 5, I have so many parents saying, any phone you give my child, 2 years old, but she can unlock it. Big deal. You should be terrified about it. Not happy. Not celebrating. And the remaining 10%, which is more of this section, which is thinking, planning, reasoning, logical decision, rational decisions, executive functioning of your brain, happens before the age of 25. The age is slightly different for boys and girls. For girls, it's by 23. For boys, it's by 27. Yeah, that's why. So this is not me. This is research. So now that you know this, please tell me why your child has a phone, has a tab, has a Kindle, and has a TV and a laptop on which she's going to do homework. I have my kids at home who are like, we have to do PPTs. I'm like, oh my God, you're going to do PPTs for the rest of your life. I mean, look, this is my job. I'm making PPTs. Why should you be doing that at 6th and 7th standards? Read a book, go out and play, get dirty, scrape your knee. Like they've come here, they were unwilling to touch the brain, saying it's like, ugh. I mean, come on, we grew up also doing all that, but we were like happy. There was one generation of kids which used to put their heads into everything dirty just to explore it. And now we're telling wear gloves, there's a sanitizer, wash your hand. This jabardasti and me, where's the, just hold the brain. I want to take a picture of yours. I want to go back and show everybody, listen, that you held the brain. So this I said, I'm on the parent side, not that I'm doing anything right all the time, right? But it is dangerous. You have yourself only to ask, why is my child with a phone? More exposure, they learn a lot of things. So you're saying you don't have the time to teach them? The phone has to teach them? Think. Oh, especially the to-be mothers, please think. This is one of the aims in education now. We're trying, I mean, this is something which should have started off at home. Something that's happened, our education minister, Taude, God bless him, forgetting about all political parties and political boundaries, he's talking about bringing holistic education, introducing yoga. For anyone who's done yoga in schools, for anyone who's done yoga, you know how powerful it is as a tool. If you want people to learn to just introspect. You all know this, start your day. If you can sit quietly for 10 minutes, breathe in and out, and then go, your day is a lot more sorted than if you're just racing the alarm and racing the train and running away. Give that habit to the child now only, na, because anyway, we've messed up the life for them. Please understand the so-called millennials, the so-called kids whom we call, they're very entitled and they're, aaj ke bacche kaise hain, and hamare time mein we did this and we did that. Please let us tell them what we have actually done. We've given them a planet where they have no air to breathe, where the water is lousy, where they don't know how long the planet is going to last because we've created an industrial revolution. Seriously, and we're blaming them for what? For not waking up on time and for not eating their food on time? Perspective. That's all we need to look at. And all the kids over here, I know you're going to go back and throw this at your parents, but think. Call me for a talk to your college and then I will tell you. Okay? So there are some, I just have some 10 suggestions. Like I said, nobody can tell another parent what to do, so I just have some 10 suggestions. The first one, of course, why? Why do you want a child? Get the answer to that question before you take any step forward. If the child had already come, children are already come, and if you think grandchildren are coming, please ask your children why. Just tell us why. And this big deal about, see, nurturing, instinctive, I get it. We want to nurture. But when you say, I want my own child and I want my child to go through these experiences, that's not nurturing. That's keeping up with the Joneses. That's bringing up some kind of evidence saying that, listen, I can do all of this and my child has done all of this. And thanks to people like Zuckerberg and stuff, we're like, we do things in life just for public display. We've stopped doing things for our own joy, unfortunately. So that's rule number 1, know yourself. I meant that just know why you want to have a baby. Know the outcomes. If you have a child, seriously, have you thought it through? Seriously, have you thought it through? I don't mean that. I know some of you, the parents might be just ready to pound me, what the hell is she talking about? Go right ahead. But go back and think. And this question is going to follow you. Why? I can bet you. From Ross, yeah. Your self-respect cannot come from your child. Your self-esteem does not come from your child's accomplishments. Your self-esteem comes from you. You, what have you done? What have, क्या उखाड़ा है आपने life में पहले बोलो. Then you please talk about your child. On. Great. What are you showing off about? I don't get it. So, your self-esteem comes from you. And if you talk to any mental health professional, you know, they always tell you the fundamental rules. Love yourself first. You love yourself, everything else falls into place. When you travel by the aircraft, if the oxygen masks drop, you put it on yourself first. Even if your little baby is next to you, you put it on yourself first. Look after yourself first. When you're sorted, when your life is structured, when you've organized, and then you think, okay, what can I do to destroy the planet a little more? Let me have a baby. Actually, I love kids, okay? Also, this is one of the basics, and I don't know why parents don't get it. Don't disagree in front of your parents, man. Kids are clever. They just have to see slight cracks of dissension and you guys are destroyed. They know how to play you guys against each other. But the other bigger thing is, they you're not giving them a clear message about what is really valuable in life. It's teamwork, no? You want to bring up a child, you want to make the child the best version of a human being that it can be. Give the child one message right through. Don't give them conflicting message. It's like, yeah, okay, let's have some ice cream, but don't tell mom, huh? It sounds like masti. But do this often enough and the child is like, yeah, there's stuff that I can do and I don't have to tell mom. And it's not like I'm trying to, kind of making it very doomsday kind of. You just have to understand that those little dots that you saw in the slide down there, which are your brain cells, every time something happens, something is told, something is received, there's an electrical connection, no? There's a neuron that fires. So an event has occurred in the brain. You want to undo that, you're going to have to take a whole lot of trouble. It's like getting a tattoo on your skin, easy to put it on, painful but easy to put it on, a lot more painful and expensive to take it off. So think about every interaction that you have with your child. You're the boss. At the end of it all, please remember, you are the boss. If you're the parent, you're the boss. The little creature next to you is your child. He's powerless, she's powerless, but you are the boss. We have this great desire to give our child everything that we didn't get. Does that mean that you've turned out to be such a loser? You didn't get a lot of things, but you turned out great, right? So why do you want to make sure that your child gets everything? If your child also does not get the things that you did not get, the child is going to turn out as fantastic as you. What's scaring you about it? Why are you worried? Think. You don't have to do it. Think. When it comes to punishing or trying to establish rules and a little bit of discipline, withdrawing of privilege is completely acceptable. There's always that thing of inflicting something negative, withdrawing something positive. I like this one, what's wrong with this? You want Wi-Fi, you do what you're supposed to do. I'll do what I'm supposed to do, you do what you're supposed to do. If you as a mom are looking hassled all the time because you're managing a house and a career and mother-in-laws and all of those kind of things, I can understand you're freaking out. And you're telling your child that it's okay to freak out. And it's okay to not do some things at the expense of something else. The day you can be an ideal role model to your child is when you should expect things from your child. And when can you be an ideal role model to your child? Never. You're human. You will make mistakes. You are flawed. So that's fine. But therefore, what children see, children do. You tell kids they don't really want to follow you, but what they see you do, they observe. And there are habits that occur over a period of time. I think I hope some of the women will agree with me on this. When we are growing up, we kind of disagree with our mom. We are fighting with her for everything. And a few years later, you're like, oh my God, I'm mom. What happened? You absorbed, right? Your child will absorb from you. You don't have to teach and so now and punish and do this. Child can learn. Every human being, every organism is a learning, absorbing agent. As children, they learn a lot more and a lot faster. Give them that credit that they will learn. How will they learn? By watching what you do, not by listening to what you tell them to do. That way also they listen, but then your little fatkas come in the picture. For parents who think that, child is going to grow up and now, if kids are growing up, going abroad, studying elsewhere, parents are in one continent, children are in another continent or in another hemisphere altogether. So you may feel that, I may become irrelevant and redundant for my child. Please, you will always be there. You are that voice in their head which they cannot shut off. They may be listening to that voice and laughing at it also, but you're there. Please don't ever underestimate your value or your importance in your child's life. You will always matter. It may not be as maladaptive as I'm showing over here, but you will always be there. And if you're not there, just suppose, if you're not there, so what? Why did you have the child? So that you could be a voice in their head all the times? No. Why? That is my only question. Practice what you preach. That's the one I said about, keep your stuff ordered, you do your thing well. They say, take care of your minutes, the hours will take care of itself, days will take care of itself. You do your job well. You do your stuff well. Listen to your choices. Think about what you did. Gyanvani for the children later. They will learn. They will absorb. Big one. Again, it comes down to why. You wanted another best friend, so you had a child. No, na? Kids up to a certain age need someone to show them. They want a context. They want some relevance. They want to understand. They're still figuring out the world. Don't try and figure it out for them by saying, I'm your buddy, I'll do this for you. Let them do it on their own. There's a certain age, probably post-puberty, when you would want to be their friend, where it makes life simpler to be their friend. But then again, how much friendship and how much parenting? Listen to your heart. Okay, listen to your heart and make sure you're practicing mindfulness so that the rational brain and the emotional brain, they're a little detached, okay? So all your decisions should not be emotional ones. That's why you need to think. Don't try to get buddy-buddy with your friends. That's with your babies. They're your children. They're meant to be your children. You had them because you wanted children. You didn't have them because you wanted friends. That's what I'm assuming. Technology. Give it up. Just give it up. I don't get it. Have you guys heard of Rudolf Steiner and the Waldorf School? What is that school all about? Hands-on. No screens. They tell the parents that we don't want your child watching TV at home. Please read up on Rudolf Steiner. Please read up on Waldorf schools. I think in Mumbai you have Sridhar and you have something in Andheri West. You have a few schools following that model. Yeah, there are quite a few schools following the model. It may be difficult. You know, it's probably not as difficult for the child as it is for the parent. What to do? Work, na? Work comes. I had to sit and do this on a laptop. I couldn't have done this without a laptop, right? But the point is, if I'm sitting and staring at the screen all the time and telling my child, don't look at the phone, how is it going to help? The greatest gift you can give your child is your good health. You be healthy, you be sane, you have your retirement fund in place. Far too many people, especially in our country, still have this, you know, I'm the parent and they will look after me. And it's amazing. Sometimes I see these really, really educated, really so-called sorted individuals still going with that plan that, you know, my kids will take care. Don't give them those expensive holidays. Make your retirement fund. Make them capable enough of taking those expensive holidays on their own. Take away the tab, take away the Kindle, take away the phone, put it into your retirement fund or probably their college fund. But don't get into this entire thing that I will be taken care of. Life is not as healthy as it used to be, say, probably a few decades ago. You know you're less healthier than your parents were. Your kids are going to be less healthier than you. All kinds of reasons, food, air, nutrition, whatever, habits, lifestyle. Discussion for another day. It's there. So how much do you want to mess up with it? Am I taking too much time? I'm sorry. So this is just a summary. 10 steps to happy parenting. I'm going to look on this side. Know yourself, know your outcome. Let your self-esteem come from you, not your child. Parenting should appear like teamwork. It's not a part tussle. You're the boss. And you will always be the voice, the only voice in your kid's head. Eat right, sleep right, work right. That's what Ayurveda says. If you eat well, sleep well, and excrete well, you're healthy. You don't have to be friends, especially not in the earlier years. Technology is not a must-have. Plan your retirement and good health. No one's perfect. Not your parents, not you, not your kids. Enjoy those perfect moments that come along. And everything that is not as perfect as it should be, breathe and ask yourself, why? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're running a little late and we may not have too much time for question and answer, but maybe one or two quick questions if anyone has any.
I knew this one was coming.
And I was at the edge of my seat all through your lecture. So I want to know, I mean, not that I haven't thought about it, but you kept, what I liked was that you used the word think, which is something which we just don't do now, you know. Because we're just automatons, just doing what we're meant to do. So anyway, now what's going to help me, that's my daughter by the way, what's going to help me to define the why? Why did you have them? You know, if you can just give some pointers. I don't want to say who now, please. So why did you have them, you know?
Anything else, any other questions related to the why? I think I'll just address that one question, Aarti, if that's okay. Why, sir? Just the one question. What has happened. Start from today. Still get the answer to that. Sit and figure it out why. Once you figured out the why and you think that that's not a great answer, you don't like the answer to the why that you get, sit and try and change the parenting. Change your life, actually, I would say. The parenting is one aspect of your life. Sit and change the way you think about life, your purpose here on this planet, what you as a human being are meant to do. I think that's about it. If you can just ground yourself, anchor yourself, center yourself, you're sorted. And you'll be able to sort the others also. Thank you all for participating.